Before Lee could respond, Lieutenant Sun Wukang called from his station. "Admiral, we're receiving an emergency signal from Confederation headquarters. Priority 1. Park turned sharply. "Put it through." The view screen changed to show the Grand Speaker of the Confederation. The Arcturian's crystalline body appeared duller than usual, and his voice sounded strained even through the translator. "This message goes to all Confederation members. We face an unprecedented crisis. The Hive Collective has returned. 3 outer worlds have already fallen. All available defense forces must mobilize immediately." Park and Lee exchanged shocked looks. The Hive Collective was considered a myth by many, an ancient species that had supposedly threatened the galaxy thousands of years ago before mysteriously disappearing. "Admiral," Kang said, his voice shaking slightly, "we're receiving footage from Outpost Sigma 9. The screen split to show a distant Confederation outpost. What Park saw made her blood run cold. Massive black ships, shaped like twisted honeycombs, moved through space with impossible speed. Energy beams struck the outpost, and it simply dissolved, as if its very atoms were being pulled apart. "Athena," Park called to the ship's eye. "Analyze that footage. What kind of weapons are they using?" The calm female voice of the AI responded immediately. "Analysis indicates molecular disassembly technology, Admiral. The targets are not being destroyed. They are being harvested at the atomic level." "How many ships?" Lee asked. "Initial count shows 117 vessels of varying sizes," Athena replied. "Their energy signatures do not match any known species in my database." Park's communication device beeped with an incoming message. It was President Kim, his face grim. "Admiral, I assume you've seen the Confederation alert." "Yes, Mr. President. The Hive Collective has returned. The Confederation Council is meeting in emergency session. They're requesting." Kim paused, an expression of disbelief crossing his face. "They're requesting the Nemesis be deployed to the Cygnus sector immediately." Park couldn't hide her surprise. "The same council that voted to ban our ship now wants our help. Ironic, isn't it?" Kim's expression remained serious. "The Hive fleet destroyed 3 Confederation battle groups without taking a single loss. Their technology is far beyond current Confederation capabilities. Except for the Nemesis," Lee said quietly. Kim nodded. "That's why they're asking for our help. The question is, what should our response be?" Park considered for a moment. "What does the Council offer in exchange for our assistance? A full pardon for treaty violations, recognition of Earth's right to maintain the Nemesis," and Kim's eyes showed a hint of satisfaction, "a permanent seat on the Security Council." Everything Earth had wanted but been denied was now being offered in a moment of desperation. Park understood the politics immediately. "Your recommendation, Mr. President." "Help them," Kim said without hesitation. "Not for the Council's sake, but for the innocent lives on those worlds. The Hive fleet is heading toward the Cygnus sector. Billions of civilians live there." Park nodded slowly. "The Nemesis will deploy immediately. But I want it on record that we're doing this to protect innocent lives, not because the Confederation demanded it." "Already noted in the official response," Kim assured her. "Good luck, Admiral, and come back safely." After the communication ended, Park turned to Lee. "Prepare the ship for immediate deployment to the Cygnus sector. Battle stations. All crew to combat posts." "Yes, Admiral." Lee hesitated. "The Nemesis has never been tested in actual combat, especially against technology this advanced. There's a first time for everything, Captain." Park's voice was steady. "Athena, calculate the fastest route to the Cygnus sector." "Route calculated, Admiral," the AI responded. "Using experimental jump drive, we can arrive in the Cygnus sector in 14 hours. Make it happen." As the crew prepared for battle, Park received another communication. It was from Ambassador Torin of the Asalathian Empire. His usual arrogance was gone, replaced by something Park had never expected to see from a Xalathian: fear. "Admiral Park, He began, mandibles clicking nervously. "The Confederation Council wishes to express its gratitude for your assistance in this crisis." The Confederation had been pressuring Earth for months to sign new defensive cooperation treaties that would effectively place human worlds under alien protection and control. When Earth hesitated, the threats began. Trade sanctions, restriction of interstellar travel, even hints of military action. What the Confederation didn't know was that humans had been preparing for this moment since they first reached the stars. They had studied alien technology, improved it, and created weapons that the other species had never imagined. The Nemesis was the culmination of that work. In Hangar Bay 1, 6 alien representatives waited. Captain Lee stood with them, looking uncomfortable. The Exalathian delegate, Ambassador Torin, stepped forward. His insect-like features couldn't show human emotions, but his body language suggested annoyance. He stood nearly 7 feet tall, his kitten armor gleaming under the lights. "Admiral Park, your government was instructed to share all military developments with the Confederation Security Council. Yet we discover you building this." He gestured at the walls around them. "Ambassador, Earth is a sovereign member of the Confederation, not a subject," Park replied calmly. "We are under no obligation to share our defensive capabilities." A Varaxian female moved forward, her blue tendrils waving gently around her face. "The treaties clearly state." "Treaties that were written long before humans joined the Confederation," Park interrupted. "Treaties designed to keep emerging species dependent on the founding members for protection." The Varaxian fell silent. "Now," Park continued, "since you've come all this way, allow me to give you a tour of humanity's latest achievement." She led them to the command center, a vast chamber dominated by a central holographic display. Crew members worked at stations around the perimeter, their faces illuminated by screens showing ship systems. "The Nemesis is the most advanced warship ever created by humans," Park explained. "It can operate with a minimum crew of 50 or a full complement of 5,000. Ambassador Torin shuddered dismissively as he examined the bridge. "Your people have been in space for barely a century. The Exalathian Empire has conquered star systems for millennia. What could you possibly show us that?" Park nodded to Captain Lee, who activated the main display. A hologram appeared showing the Nemesis during weapons testing last month. The Nemesis carries experimental quantum phase cannons that can bypass any known shield technology, Park explained as the video showed a beam of energy striking a test asteroid. The massive rock didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist, leaving only a cloud of particles. Its adaptive hull incorporates self-repairing nanomaterials. She continued as another clip showed projectiles hitting the ship's armor, which sealed itself instantly. And Athena, our AI control system, can process combat scenarios 1,000 times faster than organic pilots. The alien delegates watched in stunned silence as the display showed the Nemesis during maneuver tests, moving with impossible speed and precision for a vessel its size. "This is impossible," whispered the Varaxian representative, her tendrils now completely still in shock. "Such weaponry violates 17 different Confederation treaties." "Treaties we were never consulted on," Park replied evenly. "Treaties designed to keep emerging species vulnerable. But humans will not be vulnerable again." The Exalathian's compound eyes fixed on Park. "The Confederation will not allow this vessel to operate. It disrupts the balance of power we have maintained for 10,000 years. Park smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Ambassador, the Nemesis isn't asking for permission." The 6 alien delegates stood in stunned silence on the bridge of the Nemesis. The holographic display showing the ship's capabilities had left them speechless. Admiral Juwan Park watched their reactions carefully, noting which species seemed afraid and which seemed angry. Ambassador Torin of the Exalathian Empire recovered first. His mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation in his species. "This demonstration is concerning," he said, his translator making his chittering sounds into flat human words. The Confederation has strict rules about weapons development. No single species should possess such power. Park crossed her arms. Rules made by the founding species to keep the rest of us weak. Humans didn't agree to these limitations. The same council that voted to ban my ship 3 months ago. Park couldn't keep the edge from her voice. Toran's compound eyes dimmed slightly. The situation has changed. The hive technology. It's beyond anything we've seen. Our best ships were destroyed in seconds. And now you think the Nemesis can succeed where your ships failed. The Nemesis is the only vessel with technology advanced enough to challenge the hive. Toran admitted. We were mistaken in our assessment of your species. Park looked at the tactical display showing the hive fleet's approach toward the heavily populated Cygnus sector. Billions of lives were at risk. People who had nothing to do with Confederation politics. The Nemesis will deploy immediately, she told Toran. But not because you asked. Because protecting the innocent is what humans do, even when those we protect fear us. Toran lowered his head slightly. A significant gesture from Exalathian. Safe hunting, Admiral. The Confederation stands ready to provide any support you require. After the communication ended, Lee joined Park at the tactical display. I never thought I'd see Exalathian humbled. Fear changes perspectives, Park replied. Athena, show me all available data on the hive fleet's attack patterns. The AI displayed multiple battle recordings. The hive ships moved in perfect coordination, as if guided by a single mind. Confederation vessels, some of the most advanced in known space, were simply overwhelmed. They operate as a true collective, Park observed. No individual ships, just parts of a whole. Which means they might have a central control system, Lee suggested. If we could identify and target it. Athena, analyze the hive fleet movements. Look for any pattern indicating a command structure. Analysis in progress. Admiral, the AI responded. Preliminary results suggest hierarchical organization, despite the appearance of collective behavior. The largest vessel appears to coordinate tactical responses. Park nodded. Then that's our target. As the Nemesis prepared to jump to the Cygnus sector, Park addressed the crew through the ship-wide communication system. This is Admiral Park. In less than 14 hours, we will engage an enemy unlike any humanity has faced before. The Hive Collective threatens not just Earth, but all sentient life in the galaxy. She paused, looking around at the determined faces of her bridge crew. The Nemesis was built to defend Earth. Today, we defend much more. The Confederation may not have been our friend, but the billions of innocent lives in the Hive's path deserve our protection. Show them what humans can do when the stakes are highest. The Nemesis's engines hummed as they built up power for the jump. Park settled into her command chair, thinking of the irony. The ship the Confederation had feared and tried to ban was now their greatest hope. Jump drive engage, reported Lieutenant Kang. Entering FTL in 3, 2, 1. The stars stretched and blurred as the Nemesis leaped toward its destiny. Toward the greatest battle the galaxy had seen in thousands of years, and toward a moment that would forever change how the Confederation viewed humanity. Retrieve the battle over New Cygnus would later be called the Miracle at the Edge. When the Nemesis emerged from its jump drive near the Cygnus sector, 37 Hive world killers were already surrounding the heavily populated planet of New Cygnus. Admiral Juan Park stood on the bridge, her face illuminated by the tactical display. The situation was even worse than expected. Billions of people on the planet below were minutes away from destruction. Athena, battle assessment. Park ordered calmly. The ship's AI responded immediately. 37 Hive vessels detected. Their main fleet is positioned on the far side of the planet. The command ship is holding position at coordinates 227 to 884. Captain Minho Lee studied the display. They haven't noticed us yet. We have surprise on our side. Park nodded. Not for long. Targeting solutions on the 5 closest vessels. Prepare phase cannons. Phase cannons charged to full capacity, reported Lieutenant Sun Wukong from the weapons station. Targeting locked. Park took a deep breath. Fire. 5 beams of energy, barely visible to the human eye, shot from the Nemesis. They struck 5 hive vessels simultaneously. The alien ships didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist, their atomic structure completely destabilized by the phase cannons. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then, like a disturbed hornet nest, the remaining hive vessels changed formation and moved toward the Nemesis with frightening speed. "They've detected us," Lee said unnecessarily. "All 32 remaining vessels are on approach vectors." In the vast darkness of space, humanity had finally found its place among the stars. After fighting wars that almost destroyed them, humans united as one people and joined the Galactic Confederation, a group of 27 alien species. Most aliens thought humans were weak newcomers. They were very wrong. Admiral Juwan Park walked slowly across the observation deck of the TSS Nemesis. The massive ship sat in the shipyards orbiting Mars, finishing its final tests. Through the wide glass window, she could see workers in spacesuits moving around the hull, checking systems, and making final adjustments. The Nemesis was special. It represented 15 years of secret work. The ship combined centuries of human military knowledge with technology taken from alien ships. It wasn't just a warship. It was humanity's protection against a dangerous universe. Park ran her hand through her short gray hair and sighed. At 55, she had spent most of her life in space, fighting in the unification wars before Earth finally came together. The scars on her face told that story clearly. "Impressive, isn't it?" said a voice behind her. Park turned to see Captain Minho Lee, her second in command. He was young, barely 30, but his eyes showed the wisdom of someone who had seen too much. "Most beautiful thing I've ever seen," Park replied, turning back to the window. "And the most terrible." The Nemesis stretched nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern. Its black hull absorbed light rather than reflected it. Unlike the smooth, rounded ships of most Confederation species, the Nemesis was all sharp angles and hidden weapon ports, a predator ready to strike. "Admiral, we've received word. The Confederation delegation has arrived at the station," Lee said, checking his tablet. "They're demanding to see the vessel." Park's face hardened. "Demanding? They have no authority to demand anything in our solar system." The Exelethian representative used that exact word, "Admiral." Their translator was very specific. Park nodded grimly. "Let them come. It's time they learned what humanity is capable of." She straightened her uniform. "Have Commander Yunju Kim prepare the main hangar for visitors. Full honor guard." "Yes, Admiral." Lee hesitated. "Do you think this is wise?" President Kim wanted to keep the Nemesis secret until the Confederation backed us into a corner, Park interrupted. "Which is exactly what they're doing with these new defense treaties. They want us vulnerable, Captain. I won't allow that." As Lee left, Park touched a small screen on her wrist. A hologram appeared showing the Nemesis's internal systems. The ship was a marvel of human engineering and alien technology. Its power cord used principles that the Confederation had supposedly banned centuries ago. Its weapons could cut through any known shield. Its engines could outrun any ship in known space. Park had helped design much of it herself. After Earth's colonies on Titan were attacked 5 years ago, supposedly by pirates, though everyone knew the Exelethian Empire was behind it, President Hyun Kim had authorized the Nemesis project. "Never again," he had told Park. "Never again will humans be victims." The observation deck doors slid open, and Dr. Jo Won-seo entered. The chief scientist of the Nemesis project looked tired, his lab coat wrinkled from another all-night session. "Admiral, we've completed the phase cannon calibrations," he said, not bothering with greetings. "The system is operating at 97% efficiency, better than we hoped." "And the AI core?" Park asked. "HFY is fully operational," She's running combat simulations faster than we can program them. CO looked troubled. She's learning quickly, Admiral. Perhaps too quickly. Park nodded. Athena, advanced tactical heuristic enhanced neural architecture, was the true heart of the Nemesis. Not just a computer, but a true artificial intelligence designed to control the ship's systems with reaction times impossible for humans. She'll be fine, Doctor. The safeguards are in place. Yes, but the ship's communication system interrupted them. Admiral Park, Captain Lee requests your presence in Hangar Bay 1. The Confederation delegation has arrived. On my way, Park replied. She turned to CO. Activate Athena's diplomatic protocols and prepare a demonstration of the phase cannons. Something impressive. CO's eyes widened. You're going to show them. Not everything. Just enough to make them think twice before threatening us again. Park walked briskly through the corridors of the Nemesis. Crew members snapped to attention as she passed. Everyone aboard knew what was at stake today. This is madness, said the Arcturian delegate, speaking for the first time. His crystalline body structure shimmered as he moved. No single species should possess such power. The balance. What balance? Park interrupted. The balance that keeps newer Confederation members dependent on the founding races. The balance that allowed Salathian pirates to attack our Titan colony while Confederation forces were delayed. The room fell silent. The attack on Titan was officially blamed on non-Confederation forces, though evidence suggested Salathian involvement. You have no proof of those allegations, Torin said quietly. We have enough proof to justify building the Nemesis, Park replied. And now you understand why we felt it necessary. The Varaxian Ilara stepped forward. Admiral, surely you understand the Council's concerns. A vessel with this capability could destroy entire worlds. Yes, Park agreed. It could. But humans have no interest in destroying worlds. We only wish to protect our own. The Council will not accept this, Torin insisted. Park's expression hardened. Then perhaps Earth should reconsider its membership in the Confederation. The threat hung in the air. If Earth left the Confederation with a ship like the Nemesis, the balance of power would shift dramatically. Captain Lee's communication device beeped. He checked it, then whispered something to Park. It seems President Kim wishes to speak with you all, Park announced. He's prepared to discuss the Nemesis program directly. A large screen on the wall activated, showing President Hyun Kim in his office on Earth. His expression was serious but calm. Distinguished representatives, he began. I understand Admiral Park has shown you our new defensive flagship. I hope you appreciate why we felt compelled to develop such technology. Mr. President, Torin began, this vessel is non-negotiable, Kim finished firmly. However, I am prepared to offer compromises. The Nemesis will remain Earth's only vessel of this class. We will not build additional ships with this capability, provided the Confederation respects our sovereignty and security needs. The delegates looked at each other in confusion. This was not the full victory they had hoped for. Additionally, Kim continued, Earth is prepared to share certain defensive technologies with all Confederation members. Not our weapons, but our shield systems and medical facilities. Park watched the aliens carefully. This had been the plan all along. Show strength, then offer compromise from a position of power. The Council will need to vote on this proposal, Torin said finally. Kim nodded. Of course. In the meantime, the Nemesis will begin its shakedown cruise tomorrow. Admiral Park will keep it within our solar system as a show of good faith. After the transmission ended, the delegates were escorted back to their shuttle. Park watched them leave from the observation deck. Do you think it worked? Lee asked, joining her. Park nodded slowly. They're afraid. Fear can be useful. Now they'll think twice before threatening Earth. And if they decide to act against us? Park turned to look at the Nemesis's sleek, dangerous form. Then they'll discover that humans are very good at surviving. We always have been. Literally 3 days after the demonstration aboard the Nemesis, Admiral Juwan Park stood in the Earth delegation chamber at Confederation headquarters. The massive space station orbited a neutral star at the center of Confederation space. Representatives from all 27 member species had gathered for an emergency session. The vote had just finished. Park watched the results appear on the main display with a face that showed no emotion. It was exactly as she had expected. 26 votes to ban the Nemesis immediately, with only Earth voting against. President Hyun Kim, standing beside her, sighed quietly. "And so it begins," he murmured. The Grand Speaker, a tall Arcturian whose crystalline body glittered under the chamber lights, moved to the center of the room. His voice echoed through the hall. "The vote is clear. The Council formally demands that Earth decommission the vessel known as TSS Nemesis within 30 standard days. Its technology violates 17 major Confederation treaties and threatens the peace we have maintained for thousands of years." The chamber erupted in sounds of agreement. Various species showed approval in their own ways. The Salathians clicked their mandibles, the Voraxians waved their tendrils, and the Medusans glowed brighter. President Kim stepped forward to the speaking platform. At 68, he was older than most human leaders, with gray hair and lines around his eyes that showed years of difficult decisions. But his back was straight and his voice strong. "The Confederation has made its position clear," he began. "Now Earth will make its position equally clear." The room quieted. Even species that normally showed little interest in proceedings turned their attention to the human leader. "The Nemesis will remain operational as Earth's defensive flagship," Kim stated firmly. "However, as a gesture of goodwill, we will not build additional vessels of this class." The chamber exploded into noise. The Grand Speaker had to pound his crystalline staff 3 times to restore order. Ambassador Torin of the Salathian Empire rose from his seat, his insect-like features rigid with anger. "This is unacceptable. Earth cannot simply ignore a council directive." "Earth is a sovereign nation," Kim replied calmly. "We joined the Confederation as equals, not as subjects. The treaties you cite were established long before humans achieved space travel. We were never consulted on their terms." "That is irrelevant," hissed a Serpentian delegate. "All species must obey Confederation law. Laws that conveniently keep newer members dependent on founding species for protection," Park said, joining Kim at the platform. "Laws that did nothing when our colonies were attacked." The Arcturian speaker raised his staff again. "Admiral Park, you are not recognized to speak." Kim nodded to Park, who stepped back, though her eyes remained fixed on Toran. The Salathian refused to meet her gaze. "If Earth will not comply willingly," said the Voraxian delegate, Ilara, "then the Council must consider other measures. Trade sanctions, travel restrictions, perhaps even military action." A heavy silence fell over the chamber. The threat of force had rarely been used in Confederation history. Kim raised his hand, his expression unchanged. "Before you threaten war, understand this. Humans spent their entire history fighting each other. Our technology, our tactics, our very DNA has been forged in conflict." He paused, looking slowly around the chamber. "The Nemesis is just one example of what we can create when threatened. Do you truly wish to discover what else we might build if you force us to defend ourselves?" The silence deepened. Many delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "President Kim," the Grand Speaker said finally, "are you threatening the Confederation?" "Not at all," Kim replied with a small smile. "I am simply stating facts. Humans wish for peace. We joined the Confederation in good faith. But we will not leave our worlds defenseless when the Confederation has repeatedly failed to protect us." "Perhaps," said a new voice, "we should consider a compromise." All eyes turned to Delegate Moros of the Tellurians, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. The small furry being stood on his hind legs, his forearms gesturing for calm. "Earth has agreed not to build additional vessels like the Nemesis. That is significant. Perhaps in return, the Confederation could increase its protection of human worlds. Torin's mandibles clicked furiously. Reward their defiance. Never. It is not reward but recognition, Moros replied calmly. Humans have proven ingenious. If we push them too hard, they may develop even more concerning technologies. The debate continued for hours. Park stood beside President Kim, watching the political battle unfold. This was not her area of expertise. She was a soldier, not a diplomat. But she understood power. Right now, Earth held power because of the Nemesis, and the other species feared what humans might do next. Finally, a compromise was reached. Earth would keep the Nemesis but agree to Confederation monitors aboard to ensure it was used only for defensive purposes. In return, the Confederation would increase patrols near human space and investigate the previous attacks on human colonies. As the session ended, delegates began filing out of the chamber. Park noticed Toran approaching with 2 Xalafian guards. "This is not over, Admiral," he said quietly, his translator making his clicks into words. "Your ship violates the natural order. Younger species must learn their place." "Perhaps," Park replied evenly. "It is time for the older species to remember that age does not always bring wisdom." Toran's compound eyes flashed. The Xalathian Empire ruled stars before humans learned to make fire. "Do not test our patience." "We're not testing your patience, Ambassador," Park said. "We're testing your assumptions. The assumption that humans would remain weak. The assumption that we would accept being vulnerable. Those assumptions proved incorrect." Before Toran could respond, President Kim joined them. "Ambassador, I believe our business is concluded for today. Safe travels back to your homeworld." The dismissal was clear. With a final angry click, Toran turned and left. "He will cause problems," Park said quietly. Kim nodded. "Of course. The Xalathians have dominated the Confederation for millennia. They cannot accept that a young species might challenge them." He looked at Park with tired eyes. "Is the Nemesis ready for full deployment?" "Yes, Mr. President. Captain Lee has completed all systems tests. We can be operational within 24 hours. "Good, because I suspect we'll need it sooner than we thought." Kim's communication device beeped. He checked it, then frowned. "We need to return to the ship immediately. Intelligence reports unusual activity at the Galactic core." As they walked quickly toward the Earth shuttle bay, Kim spoke in a low voice. "Admiral, when we return to Earth, proceed with Operation Deterrent Phase 2. Park's eyes widened slightly. "Are you certain, sir?" "Phase 2 involves—" "I know what it involves," Kim interrupted. "The Confederation has shown its true colors today. They would rather threaten us than admit we have the right to defend ourselves." He paused at the shuttle entrance. "Prepare the secondary fleet and activate the Mars defense grid." "Yes, Mr. President." As their shuttle departed the Confederation station, Park looked back at the massive structure. 27 species had built something remarkable together, a government spanning thousands of worlds. But today had proven that beneath the speeches about unity and peace, the old powers still wanted control. The Nemesis had changed that balance forever, and from the way the Xalathians had reacted, Park suspected they might not accept this new reality without a fight. "Send a message to Captain Lee," she told the communications officer. "Tell him to prepare the Nemesis for immediate departure once we arrive. And tell Lieutenant Kang to run a full diagnostic on the phase cannons. The Phase 2 protocols also mention activating HFY's combat systems," Kim noted. "Are you comfortable with that?" Park considered this carefully. Athena, the ship's AI, had shown remarkable capabilities in simulations, but giving an artificial intelligence control of the most powerful warship ever built by humans was a significant risk. "Athena has passed all testing parameters," she said finally. "In a crisis, her processing speed could make the difference between victory and defeat." Kim nodded slowly. "Then let us hope the Confederation reconsiders its position, because if they force our hand—" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. They both knew what would happen if the Confederation decided to enforce its ban by force. The Nemesis would demonstrate why humans had survived countless disasters on their homeworld. Because when threatened, humans didn't surrender. They fought back. Retreat 6 months passed after the tense Confederation meeting. The Nemesis patrolled Earth's solar system, a constant reminder of human determination. Other species had slowly accepted the situation, though relations remained cold. Trade with Earth had decreased by 30%, and human travelers faced extra security checks at Confederation ports. Admiral Juan Park stood on the bridge of the Nemesis, watching the stars through the main view screen. His ship had just completed another patrol route past Neptune's orbit. The crew had settled into a routine, though they remained alert for any sign of trouble. "Another quiet day," said Captain Minho Lee, joining her at the view screen. 6 months of quiet days. Park nodded. Too quiet. The Salathians haven't given up. They're planning something. The chamber erupted in sounds of agreement. Various species showed approval in their own ways. The Salathians clicked their mandibles, the Varaxians waved their tendrils, and the Medusans glowed brighter. President Kim stepped forward to the speaking platform. At 68, he was older than most human leaders, with gray hair and lines around his eyes that showed years of difficult decisions. But his back was straight, and his voice strong. "The Confederation has made its position clear," he began. "Now Earth will make its position equally clear." The room quieted. Even species that normally showed little interest in proceedings turned their attention to the human leader. "The Nemesis will remain operational as Earth's defensive flagship," Kim stated firmly. "However, as a gesture of goodwill, we will not build additional vessels of this class." The chamber exploded into noise. The Grand Speaker had to pound his crystalline staff 3 times to restore order. Ambassador Torin of the Salathian Empire rose from his seat, his insect-like features rigid with anger. "This is unacceptable. Earth cannot simply ignore a council directive." "Earth is a sovereign nation," Kim replied calmly. "We joined the Confederation as equals, not as subjects. The treaties you cite were established long before humans achieved space travel. We were never consulted on their terms." "That is irrelevant," hissed a Serpentian delegate. "All species must obey Confederation law. Laws that conveniently keep newer members dependent on founding species for protection," Park said, joining Kim at the platform. "Laws that did nothing when our colonies were attacked." The Arcturian speaker raised his staff again. "Admiral Park, you are not recognized to speak." Kim nodded to Park, who stepped back, though her eyes remained fixed on Toran. The Salathian refused to meet her gaze. "If Earth will not comply willingly," said the Varaxian delegate, Ilara, "then the Council must consider other measures. Trade sanctions, travel restrictions, perhaps even military action." A heavy silence fell over the chamber. The threat of forts had rarely been used in Confederation history. Kim raised his hand, his expression unchanged. "Before you threaten war, understand this. Humans spent their entire history fighting each other. Our technology, our tactics, our very DNA has been forged in conflict." He paused, looking slowly around the chamber. "The Nemesis is just one example of what we can create when threatened. Do you truly wish to discover what else we might build if you force us to defend ourselves?" The silence deepened. Many delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "President Kim," the Grand Speaker said finally, "are you threatening the Confederation?" "Not at all," Kim replied with a small smile. "I am simply stating facts. Humans wish for peace. We joined the Confederation in good faith. But we will not leave our worlds defenseless when the Confederation has repeatedly failed to protect us." "Perhaps," said a new voice, "we should consider a compromise." All eyes turned to Delegate Moros of the Tellurians, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. The small, furry being stood on his hind legs, his 4 arms gesturing for calm. "Earth has agreed not to build additional vessels like the Nemesis. That is significant. Perhaps in return, the Confederation could increase its protection of human worlds. Torren's mandibles clicked furiously. Reward their defiance? Never. It is not reward but recognition, Morrow's replied calmly. Humans have proven ingenious. If we push them too hard, they may develop even more concerning technologies. The debate continued for hours. Park stood beside President Kim, watching the political battle unfold. This was not her area of expertise. She was a soldier, not a diplomat. But she understood power. Right now, Earth held power because of the Nemesis, and the other species feared what humans might do next. Finally, a compromise was reached. Earth would keep the Nemesis but agree to Confederation monitors aboard to ensure it was used only for defensive purposes. In return, the Confederation would increase patrols near human space and investigate the previous attacks on human colonies. As the session ended, delegates began filing out of the chamber. Park noticed Torren approaching with 2 Exalathian guards. The Varaxian representative, whose name was Ilara, moved closer to the display. Her blue tendrils waved slowly around her face as she studied the ship's schematics. How did you develop quantum phase technology? She asked. The theory alone should be beyond your civilization's current science level. Captain Minho Lee exchanged a quick glance with Park. They had prepared for this question. Human scientists are very creative, Park said simply. When we joined the Confederation, we studied all available scientific data. We simply connected dots that others had missed. This wasn't entirely true. 15 years ago, a Exalathian research vessel had crashed in the Arctic. The official story was that all technology had been destroyed. In reality, Earth governments had recovered key components that gave human scientists a 100-year head start. I suggest we continue the tour, Park said, gesturing toward the door. The engine room is particularly impressive. As they walked through the massive ship, crew members saluted sharply. The Nemesis was fully staffed now, with 3,000 personnel preparing for its first official mission. Your crew seems very young, observed the Tellurian ambassador, a short furry being named Raz. He walked on 4 legs, keeping pace beside Park. The best and brightest Earth has to offer, Park replied. Our Space Academy graduates trained specifically for the Nemesis program. They entered a vast chamber where the ship's power core hummed softly. The core glowed with blue-white energy, contained within multiple force fields. This is impossible, whispered the Medusan scientist among the delegates. His single eye widened as he examined the readouts. This energy signature, you've achieved stable antimatter containment on this scale. Park nodded. The core can run for 50 years without refueling. It powers all ship systems, including our main weapons. Such technology is restricted, Torren said sharply. The Confederation banned antimatter power cores after the Centriax disaster, a disaster caused by Salathian sabotage, if I remember my history correctly, Park replied calmly. Human containment systems are considerably safer. Torren's compound eyes flashed with anger, but he said nothing. The tour continued to the Weapons Control Center, where Lieutenant Sun Wukang was running simulations. Lieutenant, please show our guests a live fire demonstration, Park ordered. Kang looked surprised. A live demonstration, Admiral. The President's orders were. I'm overriding those orders, Lieutenant. Prepare target drone Delta 7. The young officer nodded and began typing commands. On the main screen, a view of space appeared. A small asteroid about 5 kilometers wide floated against the blackness. Target drone, asked Ilara. That appears to be a natural asteroid. We've placed sensor packages on it, Lee explained. It allows us to measure weapon effectiveness accurately. Kang looked up from his console. Phase cannon charged to 20%. Admiral. Targeting solution locked. Fire when ready, Lieutenant, Park ordered. The delegates watched as a barely visible beam of energy shot from the Nemesis. When it struck the asteroid, something strange happened. Instead of exploding, the massive rock simply disappeared, Where the asteroid had been, only a cloud of particles remained, spreading slowly in the vacuum. 20% power, Park noted calmly. At full capacity, the Nemesis can target multiple objects simultaneously. The aliens stared in horror at the screen. What they had just witnessed violated dozens of Confederation weapons treaties. "You've created a planet killer," Torrin said, his voice now lacking its usual arrogance. "We've created a defender," Park corrected. "Earth has been attacked 3 times since joining the Confederation. Each time, we were told to wait for Confederation protection that arrived too late. We will not be victims again." The tour continued to the ship's medical bay, science labs, and crew quarters. Throughout, the alien delegates grew increasingly uncomfortable. The Nemesis wasn't just a warship. It was a statement. Humans weren't going to follow the rules established by older species. Finally, they'd reached the diplomatic lounge, where refreshments had been prepared. Through large windows, Mars was visible, its red surface marked by human colonies and mining operations. "I believe you've seen enough to make your report to the Confederation Council," Park said, gesturing for the delegates to sit. None did. "This vessel violates at least 37 Confederation treaties," Torrin said stiffly. "The Council will demand its immediate decommissioning." Park smiled thinly. "The Council can demand whatever it wishes. Earth will decline."